It is 9:59. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The NFL informed teams on Wednesday that the 2025 salary cap would be between $277.5 million and $281.5 million. The final figure will be determined after further negotiations with the NFLPA. Per Dan Graziano of ESPN, that means the cap goes up by over $22 million from last year. It has gone up $53 million in the last 2 years. College hoops action last night. Vanderbilt lost a third straight game on Wednesday, 82-61 at the Kentucky Wildcats. Commodores unable to complete the regular season sweep over Kentucky. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
I think you two are falling off. I think you two have jumped the shark. I was the first one in the studio today. How the tables have turned.
Lies.
What do you mean lies? I was the first one in the door of this studio today, indisputably. There was nobody else in there. Were you hiding under the console?
Me and Lucas were.
Was that you untying my shoelaces?
We were hard at work preparing the show while you just lazily walked in at 9:56.
That's right. And I was the first one in. Late.
Whatever makes you feel better, buddy.
Welcome in on this Thursday morning, this frigid Thursday morning here in Middle Tennessee. Hope you guys are home and safe if you got another snow day. If not, I'm sorry. We're happy to have you until 1 o'clock. The lying season is underway. It is in full force. And the place that it takes us this morning is the New York Jets. There is an absolutely ludicrous hypothetical trade package that is being posed on the internet and is being treated as if it is fact. And I would like to work our way through said ludicrous hypothetical to come to a more realistic conclusion about the Titans and this particular number one overall pick. There was a report, we'll call it, from Brett Hoffman of Pro Football Network. Now, it's since been renamed. It's the artist previously known as Pro Football Network. What is it now being called?
PFN 365.
Okay.
Pro Football Sports Network.
Pro Football Sports Network.
It is PFSN. That's just the Twitter handle is PFN365.
Okay. So this is an outlet that I am somewhat familiar with, and that doesn't mean that they can't have a report of substance. But
they do some good work.
Yes, they have several good people who have been working for Pro Football Network, now Pro Football Sports Network, for a couple of years at this point. I'm unfamiliar with Brett Hoffman, but that's fine. He reports that the New York Jets have contacted the Tennessee Titans about moving up in the draft. That's fine. There's nothing disputable about that. The Titans have gotten many calls about the number one overall pick. That will continue to happen as we make our way through Combine. We've already gotten through the All-Star games. You've got pro days. You've got 30 visits ahead. It's a long, long time until the end of April when the draft actually goes down. So, nothing to dispute that the Titans haven't gotten calls. What I am prepared to dispute is the potential trade package that Brett Hoffman outlined, which includes the Titans trading away the number one overall pick to the Jets for the Jets' first-round pick in 2025, the Jets' second-round pick in 2025, the Jets' first-round pick in 2026, the Jets' second-round pick in 2026, and the Jets' second-round pick in 2027. Get the bleep out of here.
That is
it's nonsense.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 picks within the first 2 rounds in the next 2 years. That would certainly help you on the quest for 12 top 100 picks in 3 years, 30 draft picks in 3 years.
If in one fell swoop you could accomplish half of your stated goal of 12 picks, basically. in the top 100, yes, that trade would have been done 2 weeks ago. That was a legitimate offer that was out there to be had.
Would it, though? I mean, they haven't even been in the same room as Cam Ward.
Lucas, it doesn't matter.
No, if they think that he can be a franchise quarterback, it
this
matters.
year's first and second, next year's first and second, and an additional second in 2027.
It is ludicrous.
No, it doesn't matter if they've been in the same room with this person, Cam Ward, or not. That is an absurd trade package. That is a greater value, a significantly better value than the Caleb Williams package that the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears did not that long ago in a draft that, while people are comfortable criticizing the level of quarterback play, there is still plenty of reason to believe that Cam Ward could be the number one overall pick, could be worthy of the number one overall pick. Obviously, due diligence is required to further solidify that. But that's a Godfather offer. That does no team in the NFL would think twice if that was actually something that was out there. So, like I said, I do not dispute the idea that the Jets have called the Tennessee Titans regarding the number one overall pick. They have fielded many calls, like I said.
Maybe Woody Johnson's son got a hold of his dad's phone.
I was about to say, is he texting from Woody's phone, texting Mike Borgonzi and being like, hey, this worked on Madden.
Yeah.
Will it work here?
Yeah, there was an LOL at the end of it. That was the red flag.
So, I am fascinated to see how it's always about, I mean, it's not always about narratives, but narratives obviously influence the way that a lot of these things are discussed, a lot of the way that we talk about things. We obviously help shape narratives because we are people in front of microphones tasked with talking about these things on a daily basis. How often, how much value do you assign to things that take place before the combine versus after the combine?
Very, very, very little.
Okay, which is the exact same place that I'm in. Now, these types of conversations, while it is not technically within the bounds, for example, of, let's say, legal tampering in free agency, the groundwork for the free agency period is laid throughout the course of the All-Star games, throughout the course of the combine, because this is when everybody is together in the same place. It can inform a lot of the things that happen in the coming months, weeks and months, but to take any kind of extreme position prior to the combine happening, prior to the medicals and the interviews, is nonsense. It's nonsense. Whether it's strong opinions about the quarterbacks, the teams that are drafting the quarterbacks, the level of interest that a team might have in a free agent versus the level of interest a free agent might have in hitting the open market, all of these things, it's way too early. And we're still, I mean, less than a week away from the combine. I'll obviously be up there Monday night through Friday. So that will be, we'll learn a lot of different information there. I'm going to be more on, we did the podcast today with Cosell. Cosell's up there to talk to coaches about tactical changes and themes that he noticed in 2024 that might inform how teams go about the draft process. I'm there to find out, all right, who's trying to get rid of whom, who's trying to cut whom, who's trying to acquire whom, and see how much headway that can be made on that, how much is fact versus how much is fiction, because a lot of it is just trying to wade your way through the BS.
Tyler on the F&M Bank chat has put together a mock text from Woody Johnson's phone to Mike Borgonzi. Quote, yo, Mike, it's Woody. I got a crazy trade package for you to check out, bro. LOL, HMU and LMK. What you think, dude? It's pretty good. That feels pretty accurate.
No, that's showing your age, because that's not the way that a 16-year-old would text.
Oh, kids don't talk like that now? No. What are they saying?
You just hello fellow kids to that.
What are they saying these days?
Something.
Hey, I got a pretty brat trade for you, bro. No cap.
Correct.
Yeah? Is that
Correct.
closer?
So you have to work in aura somehow. This Cam Ward kid, he's got a lot of aura.
It might sound chuggy, but I promise you, it's pretty brat.
This is the oldest you two have ever sounded
That's what
to
I'm
me.
saying. We have now aged out. We are out of the culture.
This has hurt me.
The Titans are going to be one of the coolest kids in school at the combine next week.
I hated that transition.
Yeah. You like that?
Turn your hat backwards and carry a skateboard through the hallways. What's wrong with you? Chuggy, he said. I don't even think that. I think that's aged out.
Can we get an Urban Dictionary definition of chuggy?
Chuggy is older than you two.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think even his attempt to sound like What even are they? Are they Gen Z? What are these people?
Gen Alpha.
So, actually,
Chuggy.
we've even aged out of Gen Z. How old is Gen Z now?
I like Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha just
Sounds cool.
I don't know.
The definition of chuggy, Urban Dictionary, the opposite of trendy. Stylish in middle school and high school, but no longer in style. Used when someone still follows these out-of-date trends.
Look at you.
This may include, but not be limited to, fashion, habits on social media, and usage of slang. Used in a sentence, my friend told me to change out of my favorite pair of Miss Me jeans because they were chuggy. Learning a lot today.
I'm so scared for how we're gonna age. Like
You should be.
I mean, there is nothing to tether us to future generations other than how old. No, Jackson doesn't count.
The gap is bigger and bigger. Like the gap between 22 and 29 is way bigger today than it was even 10 years ago, I feel like.
Like if I used some of these phrases or words with my sister is a senior in college right now, so that would make her what, 22? That sounds about right.
Yeah, approximately.
I'm going to go to Bloomington on Wednesday. I'm going to go watch Indiana probably lose to Penn State on Wednesday night, which is going to depress me, but,
Maybe you'll get to meet Mike Woodson. What would you say to Mike Woodson?
Get out. Get out. I hate you. Get out. I hate you.
That's a lie. You would say, I appreciate
You don't think
all
if
you've
I'm
done.
drinking, if I get to go to a sporting event like a fan and I start, taking shots at Kilroy's before we go to this basketball game, that there would not be something deep and dark within the recesses of my soul that would not make me look at Mike Woodson's dusty ass and say, I hate you.
Mike Woodson, definitely chuggy.
You would be respectful.
I would be seething that he's even still there. Don't piss me off 11 minutes into the show.
What would Borgonzi's reply be to that text that Tyler Dial submitted? Got a crazy trade package for you to check out, bro. HMU and LMK, what you think, dude? You capping, man. You're capping. That's the reply.
Stop.
But no,
you are making me recoil from the studio.
In all honesty, I think there has been kind of a prevailing narrative that these quarterbacks, it's not a great draft to have the number 1 overall pick. I don't really buy into the idea that the Titans are going to struggle to have a trade partner at number 1 overall. There's enough QB needy and QB desperate teams. And these are both prospects that are easy to fall in love with. And you're already seeing it happen, especially with Cam Ward.
There is no disputing that the Titans would have a trade partner in this process. The question is, is it a wasted exercise? I guess this is the way that we kind of have to look at it, right? Because I asked Jordan Reed about this within the context of quarterback evaluation. Do you go back and watch last year's quarterbacks at all before you watch this year's quarterbacks to say, okay, I identified this, that, and the other in Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Drake May, or otherwise, and I know that these prospects going in may not be able to do those things, but let's see if I can't identify some of the same things that I saw on tape because it's been a while since you've watched them. Now, could that potentially color your evaluation of these guys? Is it a wasted exercise? Jordan Reed tended to say, it's not doesn't necessarily benefit me to go back and watch a previous draft class and then compare my evaluation of the upcoming one to last year's class. It's kind of it doesn't necessarily accomplish what I thought it might be able to help inform. In the same way that we talk about that with quarterback evaluation, like, is it worth looking at the Panthers-Bears trade and saying, okay, can the Titans get anywhere close to that? Or is it just, reset the board? This is this year versus last year or 2 years ago. I guess in that case, does that actually matter? Is it worth the time to compare previous trades for first-round picks, or is this draft just entirely its own thing?
I think when we've done that, I think it's fair to go back and just look at what sort of precedent there is, what precedent exists. And we came up with that 2001 trade, right? Of the Chargers moving back from the number 1 overall pick for the Falcons to come up and get Michael Vick. There is some level of precedence there that I think is okay to look at.
We now have people getting involved in the F&M Bank chat. By the way, you can call the show, 615-737-1045. You can interact via the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Now people are putting in what they believe Borgonzi's responses would be, and it's somewhere between Italian typecasting and just Boston terminology. Clam chowder with an A is all he would respond.
It's just that he just replies clam chowder to everything.
That's right.
Come on.
Correct.
What a chuggy.
Stop. Do not say that
way to
word
mock a
again.
bus.
I don't ever want to hear
Turning
you.
my mic up.
Yes.
I don't even know if these words are.
Make it stop. Thank you.
Yeah, you're done for the segment. I'm sorry.
You are cut off.
I don't even know if it's
From nobody. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like saying cuss words in a different language into a microphone.
I don't like it.
You're speaking into a microphone that's off. You're done for the segment. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Will I have enough money when I retire? When should I start to draw from Social Security? If these questions keep you up at night, let me introduce you to the team that's there to keep you on the right track and guide you through it. That's Trajan Wealth, Trajan Wealth. Trajan Wealth is not just any financial firm. They're your partners in securing your financial future. They are more than just a fiduciary firm. They're a family-owned, veteran-led team that puts your needs first. Let their decades of experience specializing in retirement planning and wealth management work for you. Trajan Wealth offers free consultations to help you develop your plan and your peace of mind. So call them today at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000 or visit online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. What does Hattie B's have going on here recently, Lucas? Because we have since received an update as far as the Hattie B's offerings and things that might be available to people at certain locations that may not be available to people at other locations. What new information via the hot chicken world do you have to share?
So a couple of housekeeping items here for Hattie B's. Breakfast is now available Friday through Sunday only. So that includes all locations, the factory at Franklin as well.
Oh,
Friday,
all locations?
Yes, Friday through Sunday.
That's a big development.
Well, no, I'm sorry. That's just factory at Franklin. Okay. We have not confirmed that all locations
mistake by
are
you.
serving breakfast. You're right. That's my fault. But more importantly, today, kids eat free. That is at all locations, with the exception of the airport. So other than B&A, if you go to Hattie B's at the factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, and Nashville West, kids eat free for the snow day. So roads are fine. The city of Nashville has done a fantastic job. Drive safe, wipe the snow off the top of your car. But take your kids to Hattie B's for a free lunch. Doors open at 11 a.m. at all locations for this snow day.
People are still submitting their Gen Z. It's not even Gen Z. Gen Alpha?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
So
now.
what is the...
Never heard that in my life.
Can you give me the age ranges for Gen Z versus Gen Alpha? Jackson, look it up. Don't just speak into the microphone without looking it up as you turn your microphone on to speak in ignorance. Give me an actual range before I yell at you.
I have it. People born between 2010 and 2025.
2010. Okay, so like Gen Alpha is just coming into existence.
So he's a millennial. Me and you are technically Gen Z.
No, I'm a millennial. I
year were you born?
barely made the cut. 95.
95 to 2012 is Gen Z.
I thought 95 was the last year of millennial.
Nope.
He's been living his life.
My life is a lie.
Entire life is a lie. He's been calling a chamber, and...
Yeah, millennial ends in 96.
Gen Z includes individuals born between 1995 and 2012.
What resources are the two of you citing?
Google.
Okay, is it the Google AI thing that often lies?
The Google AI thing is insanely inaccurate.
Unreliable.
Yeah.
This is the University of Southern California Research Guides.
Okay.
Wikipedia says millennials wrap up in 96.
So are we going to trust a college of scholars or Wikipedia?
Well, the Wikipedia is...
College of Scholars.
Wikipedia is citing the Associated Press. Interesting. I'm having an identity crisis here.
Well, identity crisis, we'll let Lucas resolve those throughout the course of the segment, and we'll see if we can't determine whether he is actually millennial or Gen Z. I'm just a dusty old millennial at this point in time. It's, again, we are going to have to find ways, because the reason for this conversation, if you're just now hopping in to the radio show, is the Jets have reportedly called the Titans about the number 1 overall pick. The offer that is being put out there on social media as a potential offer that the Titans or the Jets have made the Titans is nonsense. It's completely and totally absurd, which makes us think that Woody Johnson's children, the 16-year-old and the 18-year-old that reportedly nixed a trade because of Madden ratings, potentially have gotten a hold of Woody Johnson's phone and are texting Mike Borgonzi. So people are submitting their Gen Z texts, like their phrasing, into the F&M Bank chat. D-Tag has submitted his hypothetical Woody Johnson teenager text to Mike Borgonzi. Yo, Woody, sup, king? I got to check the vibes. If it's giving mad aura, I'll consider it. If not, you can miss me with that mid, though. Facts.
Facts spelled F-A-X.
See, even D-Tag is too old because they don't even use fax. They use the fax. The only reason that there is an emoji for a fax machine is because of that.
I've never seen that.
Tehran texted it to me sometimes. The fax machine.
Oh,
emoji.
that's great.
I don't think I've ever actually seen a fax machine in real life. Do they still exist? Questions for another day.
I think there's one here.
Oh, really? That makes sense. Cut candidates. Potential cut candidates for the Tennessee Titans. Who comes to mind? So there are always resources out there that put out their list of potential cut candidates for all 32 NFL teams. Lucas, which list are you working off of today?
This is NFL.com, an article written by Matt Okada. Not sure if you're familiar with his work. He put out 18 cut candidates in the AFC. So essentially every team has one or two. The Titans are one of the teams that he lists with two. They are both on defense. They are safety Amani Hooker and linebacker Kenneth Murray. He says Amani Hooker, who set career highs in 2024 with 5 interceptions, 9 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, yet finished with a 65.1 overall defensive grade per PFF, which is the second lowest of his career. More importantly, he carries an $11.3 million cap hit in 2025, $8.8 million of which Tennessee can save by releasing him before June 1. Hooker has the 8th highest cap hit among safeties next year, but in terms of performance, he is not currently in the top 10 at his position. He says, he also goes on to say if they prefer to keep Hooker, another similarly fringe defensive cut candidate would be Kenneth Murray, who carries a $10.2 million cap hit in 2025, and he could be cut for $7.7 million in cap savings. Murray also started every game he played last year, 14, 95 tackles, 8 for loss, a career high, 3.5 sacks, but he was absolutely abysmal against the run. He says, according to PFF,
and the pass,
Murray's 35.0 run defense grade was the worst among 82 linebackers with at least 300 defensive snaps, which heavily damaged his overall defensive grade of 45.9. So what he is saying is that it's the run defense that dragged down the overall grade, according to Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, but you could, and again, you don't have to be an all-22 aficionado to be able to identify when Kenneth Murray was getting washed out in coverage against tight ends, for example. That Chargers game is just such a black mark.
He concludes
his body of work last year,
saying, depending on how Tennessee wants to tackle the offseason, no pun intended, Hooker, Murray, and or linebackers Arden Key or Harold Landry could all be on the chopping block.
All right. So you have defended the Kenneth Murray contract because it was a need. And I get your position on that. But I'm looking at the Kenneth Murray contract as one of several reasons why Rand Carthon was not retained. That was a bad deal. It was a bad deal before the season started. It was a bad deal after the season ended. It gets worse because his cap hit, almost doubles. It was 5.4 last year, and it will be, as you mentioned, 10.16. Kenneth Murray is the player that they have to cut. They have to cut. There is not a significant enough drop off between what they have in guys like, I would even look at Otis Reese or James Williams, and I have no idea what Cedric Gray is going to be as a pro. I don't think anybody could make that evaluation. He didn't play enough. He missed a ton of time due to injury. That was disappointing. But Gibbons, it's not that big a drop off from Gibbons, especially for the price point. This is my point on off-ball linebackers and non-premium positions. That guaranteed money on that contract was a fireable offense. It's a fireable offense. And I get he's young. He's still only 27. I get he's a freakish athlete, but it's not about how high level of an athlete he is. And can I make him a more skilled football player with guys like Frank Bush who have been around the game, been around the position for 100 years? It's not worth it. Not especially next to the cap savings that you stand to get if you cut him before June 1st.
Yeah, a 2-year, $15.5 million contract that he signed. My defense of it was, yes, that it was a need, that he is a former first-round pick, that he certainly has a lot of athletic talent, and the situation they were trying to set him up in made sense at the time, right? We want him to go hunt. Well, that was the wording from Rand Carthon. And you yourself said all offseason last year, hey, the We Suck luxury tax is real. You're going to overpay some people, so don't be shocked when you do. And then they gave Kenneth Murray $15 million. You said, I can't believe they gave Kenneth Murray $15 million.
Lucas, because of the player and the position. I'm talking about the We Suck luxury tax for players that you need. You need wide receiver. You need offensive line. You paid both of the luxury taxes for those out of necessity. I'm not saying that you have to pay the We Suck luxury tax to every position that you need. Off-ball linebacker? No. Unacceptable.
But it was a position of need. The results were not good. And I agree, Kenneth Murray is probably, among those names, is probably the best cut candidate for the Titans in this offseason.
Amani Hooker's cap hit makes it problematic, but honestly, I'd be more inclined, because Amani's still under 30, isn't he? He's so young. He's been around for 100 years at this point in time.
2019 draft pick. He's only 26.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Amani Hooker.
He'll be 27 next season.
It doesn't make sense to cut him. It makes sense to extend him. That would be, like, to bring down the 2025 cap hit, my preference would be to extend Amani Hooker. You have a need at safety. You do not get better by getting rid of Amani Hooker. He's a versatile enough player, regardless of what defensive system you're running. I think Denard Wilson can make a player like that work. I think Denard Wilson did make a player like that work. And he is a product of his surroundings. What do we talk about with the Titans the Titans defense last year? They couldn't get to the passer, which is going to impact your secondary. And their secondary was down to the 5th round rookie and a practice squad guy who played way above their heads, to their credit. But it's not good enough. And there were some things about that defense that got exposed. Amani Hooker is not a problem. The only thing that's problematic is the cap hit, and the easiest way to take care of that cap hit is to extend him. I mean, I would have advocated to extend Amani last year. He is the only reason why that deal, because John Robinson gave him a contract extension, that was after the AFC Championship. Was that 2020, 2021? And that deal didn't look great in the first year of it because Amani Hooker missed a ton of time. He's been available since then. He is the way that I'm doing this is, can I trust you? Can I trust you, and are you worth it? You can trust Amani Hooker. He's a good locker room presence. He's a stabilizing force. Even if he is 26, he's like Jaquan Jackson almost. He acts like he's 110. Based on the level of maturity that this player displays and how he handles himself based on as an example for the rest of the room. Amani Hooker, you don't get rid of. I wouldn't get rid of him.
Landry's been brought up a lot as a cut candidate, but you are essentially starting from scratch at pass rusher if you cut Harold Landry.
I don't think that's a good idea either. Like, I'm fine with Arden and Harold being both on the roster. They have, again, it's going to be somewhere between, we don't have an exact figure for the 2025 salary cap, right? Graziano's report was a range. I think most people are erring on, let's take about halfway between the range. Let's look at, let's call it $279.5 million.
We'll call it 280, just an even 280.
Right.
Until we have an exact figure.
So, and I think a lot of these over the cap, a lot of these spot track places are doing the same thing, either 280 or 279.5. That gives them about, somewhere between $44 and $48 million in available cap space heading into this free agency period. I think if you cut Kenneth Murray to, what would that save them, about $5 million after they absorb the $2.5 million cap hit that they stand to incur if they were to cut him before June 1st. That gives you a little extra flexibility to extend players. Again, extending players would also give you a level of cap relief, i.e. Amani Hooker. I don't know that you would extend Harold or Key. I think you might be more prone to let Key just kind of play it out at this point in time. Harold's got 2 years left on his deal. This is the year, though, that would provide them the ability to get out from under the contract if it had gone really wrong. So there's a variety of different tools that they have at their disposal here. Resetting the board at pass rush, it depends on what's out there. So AFC cut candidates is who is this person that wrote this list?
Matt Okada.
Does he have Bosa, the Chargers Bosa, on the?
Yep.
He has Joey Bosa on the cut.
Yeah, they could save over $25 million against the cap.
So he makes sense to go. So if Joey Bosa becomes available, do you cut a Landry to add a Bosa? You're not going to do a long-term deal with Joey Bosa. He doesn't play enough games. He misses time. He's getting up there in age.
Be 30 this season.
Right. So him and Harold are ballpark the same age, I think. Harold might be a little older. Maybe 31 at this point in time. I'd have to look it up.
Is he at 31? No.
That almost seems too old for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, no way. He's 28.
Okay.
He'll be 29 this season.
But, who's had a higher ceiling in their career? Harold has played more football. He's been infinitely more available, even having missed almost an entire, he did miss an entire season a couple of years ago. But is Harold Landry a better option than going out and acquiring Joey Bosa to try and retool your pass rush? with a draft pick. Obviously, that's not going to be the only thing that you do. You're not going to just add Joey Bosa if that's going to be the means of improving your pass rush unit. You're obviously hoping that Tavondre Sweat takes a step forward as far as just what he can do generally, both his entire skill set, because he's never going to be a pass rusher first. That's not what he's equipped to do, but he does have athletic upside that can help him develop tools and help him further his skill as far as creating internal or interior pass rush with Jeff Simmons.
I feel like Joey Bosa hasn't been a game-changing kind of player in 4 years almost. Landry has consistently been more productive than Bosa over the last 3 or so years.
Right. So that's the kind of cost-benefit analysis
from the injury,
that you have
obviously.
to do. That's the cost-benefit analysis that you have to do with this. Like, if you let Harold go, is there a better option? Like a better veteran option to add to the group? Answer's probably no right now. Because if there is a better option, a team is probably not letting that player go. Bosa would be an easy player to release because of the cap hit and because of the availability. Now, he played more games last year. What did he have? 5 sacks, 6 sacks?
Bosa?
Yeah, I think he had 5.
5. He had 5 last year, 6.5 the year before, 2.5 the year before that, an injury plagued 2022. And those last 3 seasons have ended a stretch run where he was pretty consistently getting close to or picking up double-digit sack seasons.
But to me, Lucas, it's less about adding a game-changing player in free agency than can you put together the best possible unit? Can you create a collection of players that gives you the best possible chance to affect the quarterback? Like, could Bosa, with the addition, like, it's not just about one player changing the game. Yeah, maybe you find that player in the draft, maybe that player is Abdul Carter, and that can be the future piece that you build the rest of your rush unit around, the rest of your front 7 unit around. Because he's not a fully formed player either. He's going to have some skills that he brings to the table. He's going to have some deficiencies, especially as a rookie. He's going to have to get into an NFL strength and conditioning program. He's going to have to bulk up, certainly. He's a bit undersized. He's not going to be a player that you look at and say, all right, he's immediately going to help us in run defense as much as he's going to help us against the passer. It's about, can you put together the most complete unit? I think people are getting way too caught up. And, this is something that I've had to adjust to, too, because it's just not the way that coaches think. It's about the collection of the parts, not just the individual player. Yes, you want game changers, as many as you can in any phase of the game. But again, I come back to best team over best individual player.
Sampson also lists Bengals edge rusher Sam Hubbard as a cut candidate. He had a career low season in 2024.
Also coming off a knee injury at the end of the year.
Von Miller, another cut candidate from Buffalo. Obviously, Von is getting up there in age. And Samson Ebukam of the Colts.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. There was a lot of discussion yesterday on our show with Stuart Mandel about the changes coming to the world of college football before we pivot back into NFL offseason discussion. The SEC and Big Ten are proposing interesting ideas as far as a play-in tournament for the college football playoff. We'll get to that coming up next. Maybe at some point there will be an offseason in college football where we're not talking about dramatic changes. But in the meantime, it seems like that's going to happen just each and every year as we continue to work our way through. Well, how many years is too many years for an exploratory phase for collegiate athletics in this new world? Because I feel like the exploratory phase was 2021.
Yeah, I'm starting to get over this just constant discussion about what the future of this thing is going to look like.
So, why, from your standpoint? Because I feel like you probably speak for a great many people, but just let's flesh that out.
It's just exhausting. The tweaking, I feel like people's opinions on it have weakened over the years, right? Like everybody had an incredibly strong opinion on going from the BCS system to 4, from 4 to 12, certainly a lot. And now we're talking about, okay, 12 to 14 or 16 with the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 automatic qualifiers each. And, now do we want to have a play-in tournament to decide which 4 teams out of the SEC and Big Ten get in? And it feels like we are not anywhere close to a solution for the long-term future of the college football playoff. Oh, and by the way, 2025 is still going to be the 12-team playoff, but they're discussing maybe some changes to the seeding because people took a lot of issue with that last year and tweaking some of those aspects of it. I'm just over it. I don't even think I have any strong opinions on, no, it has to look like this. I want it to look like this. Just figure something out and let's land on something and move forward.
I can certainly understand that sentiment from your standpoint, because this was something that was set in stone, it feels like, for the vast majority of its existence. And every year for the last 4 years, people have just kind of not outright taken a jackhammer to it, but they've certainly chipped away. Like you're saying, they've just chipped away at what college athletics. I know I always run it through the prism of college football because that's the biggest moneymaker. But college athletics, and by extension, college football, they have denigrated some of the things that have made it singular, some of the things that have made it special. And then the formatting stuff has also kind of eaten into that a little bit because it's changed how you view and how you consume the ultimate goal at the end of the year. It's changed the path to the college football national championship. And they've done it in an inexact way that allows them to continue to have these trial and error moments. But I just don't know how much. I guess the question is, to a much different extent. Like I talked yesterday about the NBA players taking for granted their audience, because the NBA players, more than the NBA, are outwardly expressing how disinterested they are in their own product. I don't know how much of this stuff would result in college football specifically taking their audience for granted. Like, are people just going to eat it for the foreseeable future? Or is there any scenario in which the changes are so frequent that they start to diminish their core audience? Because right now they're taking for granted that they have these people, right? That if you are a college football fan, you're not going anywhere. While we tinker and tweak with the thing that you love the most, you're going to be there no matter what. Now it's just trying to expand the level of audience, the level of reach that the sport, specifically college football, can have, and by extension, the amount of money that college football can make.
And that can be a dangerous game to play, taking all of that for granted. The biggest complaint against an expanded playoff from those who did not want to see it go from 4 to 12 was that it would devalue the regular season, right? And I pushed back against that. I did not think the regular season felt devalued.
No,
in
I
2024.
enjoyed this regular season as much as any in my memory.
Absolutely. In fact, it felt amplified to me. I cared way more about the Arizona State BYU game than I ever would in any other scenario. Colorado, Kansas, whatever it might be. The Big 12 was particularly interesting in that regard.
A lot of Big 12 loving Lucas Panzica now.
But because you figured they would only get one spot.
Yeah.
And so it was fascinating. The race to the Big 12 championship had never been more interesting than 2024, when Colorado and Kansas and Iowa State and Arizona State are involved. But now we're talking about 14 or 16 teams, the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 automatic qualifiers each, 2 to the Big 12, 1 to the ACC, and then 1 or 3 at-large bids, depending on if we're doing 14 or 16. I'm sorry, 1 ACC and 1 to the highest-ranked group of 5. It just kind of varies, but the foundation of it is 4 AQs, automatic qualifiers, for the SEC and Big Ten. So they're saying the most discussed proposal for a play-in tournament, so to speak, to get in, to figure out those top 4 out of the SEC and Big Ten would be to have the top 2 seeds meet, this is for the SEC, meet in the SEC championship game. Both teams are ensured a playoff spot, but they're playing for a bye. And to have 2 play-in games, so you match up the number 3 and number 6 seeds and the number 4 and number 5 seeds. But the SEC, this is according to The Athletic, has also discussed a more radical idea for play-in games where you match number 1 and number 8, number 4 and number 5, number 2 and number 7, number 3 and number 6.
So I understand your fatigue, but this is the most necessary thing that they have to figure out. Because Lane Kiffin, and he's not the only one, but Lane Kiffin getting up in front of a podium, in front of media, and just offering up the thought of having some level or some lack of interest in competing in a conference championship game, that can't happen. It cannot happen. It affects the television partners, which is the most important thing to affect, because if you do anything to diminish, let's run it through this prism, specifically to this year. Was conference championship weekend diminished?
Yes.
I agree.
It was. I still watched. The games were fun. Absolutely. But
of course,
absolutely it was.
But when you need to make your events must watch in this particular sport, because everybody's just trying to grab attention, they diminish one of their most valuable properties. And they had coaches at podiums publicly diminishing the idea of conference championships, because there is some logic to look at the conference championships and say, well, that might hurt my ability to compete in what the ultimate goal here is, which is a 12-team playoff bid. Specific to the SEC, that's toxic. It can't happen. They have to rectify it. So that, as we continue this 5-year exploratory phase, which has no end in sight, that to me is the most necessary of these adjustments, because they have to find a way to give the conference championships more teeth.
So if they were to do this, the SEC, 4 play-in games to figure out the top 4 teams that will get to go to the college football playoff. Number 8 seed would be South Carolina in the 2024 season. They'd be playing top-seeded Texas. They finished as essentially the 1 seed in the SEC at the end of the regular season. The 7 seed would be Mizzou playing Georgia. The 6 seed would be Ole Miss playing Tennessee. So this is where you get into the danger area of devaluing the regular season. What if Ole Miss is going into their second to last game of the year against Florida and their seeding is locked in, right? They are going to be the 6th seed no matter what happens in the last 2 weeks. And they decide to rest Jackson Dart, right? Because why play him? We need him healthy for the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
That's our chance to get into we're not going to get to the playoff by beating the Gators. We'll get to the playoff by doing something in the play-in tournament. That's when you get into that danger area of devaluing the regular season. Also, how many games are we going to ask these kids to play?
Yeah.
I mean, at what point are they going to be playing more games than an NFL regular season?
Yeah. You want to scoff at player safety in the NFL, think about it at a collegiate level, and it's a much more important talking point. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to chime in on this particular discussion. We'd be happy to have your participation. I guess, to me, when I hear you state that specific scenario, because that's what we deal with in the NFL, right? Like, you get to the end of the season, players start to get rested, all of a sudden the Chiefs aren't playing basically a single offensive starter because it doesn't matter, and they lose a game, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't bat an eye. It's about the playoffs.
So, is college football comfortable with a scenario where the risk versus reward is, okay, we've made the college football playoff or the college football conference championships more valuable, but we've diminished the end of the regular season as a result? I'm willing to bet that the conference commissioners are going to take the thing that gives them makes their television partners the happiest, which is upping the value of the conference championship games,
which is a good thing,
versus the regular season. That's an idea that college football fans are going to have to grapple with for the foreseeable future.
Well, oftentimes regular season games can rate higher than playoff games. So you better figure out something about the playoff schedule, which I felt like lost some momentum as the playoff went on. We saw how bad the first round games were.
We're not talking about the playoff games. We're talking about the conference championship games. I understand that in this scenario, play-ins are technically playoff games, but that's not how they're necessarily going to be viewed based on how you've just defined them.
Well,
So
but the devaluing of the regular season happens because teams are prioritizing the playoff, and for good reason, right? The goal is to win a championship. Tennessee, Alabama was the 6th highest rated game in the college football season, including conference championships, college football playoff, all of these things.
Yeah.
So that's where we start to get into that danger area, and that's what I'd love to avoid.
615-737-1045, the number. We'll take your phone calls on this coming up next. We will also dive into new info on the NFL and the potential rights battle that lies ahead in how you're going to consume the National Football League. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The NFL informed teams on Wednesday that the 2025 salary cap would be between $277 and $281.5 million. The final figure will be determined after further negotiations with the NFLPA per ESPN. That means the cap will go up by over $22 million from last year. College hoops last night, Vanderbilt lost a third straight game on Wednesday, 82-61 at Kentucky. And tonight, Team USA Hockey takes on Canada in the Four Nations Face-Off Championship game at TD Garden. Puck drop at 7 p.m. on ESPN. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So Lucas is worried about college football generally, year after year. How many off seasons have you been worried, I guess, at all about what this is going to do to your level of interest in college football? Not the fact that college football is going anywhere. We know college football isn't going anywhere. We know that the only thing that they're trying to accomplish right now is to expand the footprint of college football specifically, and by extension, expand the amount of money that they can make in college football. But as we just spent a segment discussing the viability of potential Big Ten and SEC play-in games that would make the conference championship weekend more viable, are you concerned at all that the amount of tweaking that they're going to continue to do is going to impact your love of this thing?
Oh,
because there are plenty of people like Chris Childers, and I'm not to take Chris out because he's doing a lot of great work for SiriusXM. He's been a college football fanatic as long as I've known him, but we've talked to Chris on the air and I've talked to him off the air before about like all the different changes that have happened to college athletics, and again, by extension, college football has kind of hurt him a little bit in terms of how much he loves this thing.
It's one of those things that for me and for many people, it is hard to even fathom a reality where you just start to lose interest in watching the Vols play Florida in Gainesville, right? Or watching Alabama, watching the Iron Bowl, watching Auburn, Georgia, whatever team you're a fan of. It's hard to even wrap your head around a time where you just have interest fade. So I have not sort of broached that with myself, but I will say the nostalgia starts to come around. Like usually people feel nostalgic about something that happened a decade ago, 2 decades ago, right? People feel nostalgia about the 90s, the 80s, whatever era you loved of college football or the NFL. Now, like I'm feeling nostalgia about like 2018, like on what college football was. That window is getting smaller and smaller the more we make these widespread changes year over year. And we went into this era with the 12-team playoff, and I was excited because I thought it would add more juice to the regular season, which I think it did. I was excited for more teams to have a bite at the apple, so to speak. But I did have this sort of acknowledgement in my head that it's not just going to stop at 12. So that's why I understood the anti-expansionists that say, you think they're just going to go to 12 and say we're good? And see that succeed and crush and say, no, we don't want more money and more teams involved in this, more ratings. So I see both sides of it in that regard, that it's not going to stop. And now it's starting to wear on me that I'm ready for us to just reach a settle point where college football can just be what it is in whatever variation that is, whatever that means. It feels like this sport.
I really don't know what it means.
It's lacking identity right now in terms of what it is and how we crown a champion. It's changing every day, and it is starting to wear on me a little bit.
So the reason why this is a discussion, if you missed it during the first hour, there has been a proposal floated by the SEC and Big Ten that would get 4 guaranteed bids to each to an expanded 14-team playoff field. It is the most discussed proposal that has been put out there to have the top 2 seeds meet in the SEC championship game as usual. Both teams ensured a playoff bid, but playing for a bye and 2 play-in games, matching the number 3 and number 6 seeds and number 4 and number 5 seeds. The SEC has also put in place or has also offered a more radical proposal for 4 play-in games, 4 total play-in games, matching number 1, number 8, number 4, number 5, number 2 and number 7, number 3 and number 6. So this, again, is not for 2025. It's for 2026. 2025 will go off as it did this past year, and we'll see what adjustments to – it'll be more adjustments on the part of the committee responsible for the seeding, because that was the biggest issue coming out of this first iteration. So we'll see what adjustments the committee make in 2025. But right now, the future of this thing is currently being carved out. And there's a couple of different ways that they could go about this. None of them are perfect. And that, I think, is what the audience seems to want to chime in on. We'll get to your phone calls here in just a second, right after I remind you that 104.5 The Zone is going to be at the Polar Plunge on Saturday. This Saturday, February the 22nd, the Music City Polar Plunge is where participants take a chili dip to support Special Olympics of Tennessee and help provide year-round sports training, competitions, and inclusive programming for over 18,000 athletes with intellectual disabilities in Tennessee. For more information, visit 1045thezone.com/events. Let's start with James.
Yeah, hey, man. I'll be concise here. I think that we should stop at 8 teams instead of 12. And then I also think that we should move to home teams. Not home teams, we should move to neutral sites. That's an unpopular opinion, but that's my opinion. I think that flipped a lot of the narrative here this past season. So I'll hang up and let you talk. Okay,
thanks for the call. I guess I'm not. Well, one, it's never going to be less. They're not going to retract the playoff. Like, it's not going to go from 12 to 8. There's only going to be expansion at this point in time. And I honestly, I would disagree vehemently, and I understand that it's an unpopular opinion, but the best part to me about the college football playoff this year was that there were home field advantage playoff games on college campuses. That was as much. I mean, obviously the games are what makes it fun, but that contributes to the electricity in the environment. The neutral site stuff takes a lot of juice out of those situations, and I hope that they don't go back to that 2 neutral sites or further or add more neutral sites as they add more playoff games. So I would probably disagree with both of your points there, or disagree in the idea that either of those would happen.
Yeah, it was never going to stop at just 8, and we were never going to have 12 for more than 2 years.
Alex is next.
So I don't understand the whole pushback to expand the conference, and a lot of the reasons they're using, too many games and all that stuff. The FCS division has been doing 24 playoff teams for years. There's 134 football FBS teams with 10 conferences. There's 129 FCS teams with 13 conferences. FCS plays 11 regular season games. FBS plays 12 regular seasons, so maybe there's something there. But they've been doing 24 teams, and it is some of the most exciting football for football purists to watch. I just don't understand why there's so much pushback for FBS to not kind of replicate the same system. The amount of money it would bring and it wouldn't even really extend the season. You just don't have a month gap between the end of the year or the end of the regular season and the playoffs. So would love to hear your take on that.
Thanks for the call, Alex.
I see what he's saying. Here's the problem, though. The FCS, there's a lot more balance and parity across the FCS than there is the FBS. And even then, what teams are in the FCS championship every year? Even with that giant playoff?
North Dakota State,
South Dakota State, right? This past year,
your beloved Jackrabbits.
Go Jacks. This past year, it was North Dakota State and was it Montana State or Montana? I feel bad. I'm sorry, Mark Mariani. Sometimes I have a hard time between the two. I think Montana State is who
Mariani's going to swoop down
push
from
North Dakota State.
Scream at you.
I think it was Montana State in the championship. But in the FBS, there was so much more of an imbalance. Do you think 12 teams belonged in the college football playoff this past year?
Yes. Based on the parameters that were set for the
okay.
12 teams to get there, yes.
Okay, all right. Bad question then. Do you think there were 12 teams that are worthy of competing for a national championship? 12 teams that feasibly could win a national championship?
No.
No, absolutely not. And there never will be.
No.
So if we had a 14 or 16 team playoff last year and you had Alabama or Miami in, could it have provided some exciting matchups? Yes, but I think this idea that we're going to get more competitive games the more we expand the playoff is a little bit faulty. I don't think there's that.
Push back on that, though. Like we never will have 12 teams that are viable to compete for a national championship, Lucas. It's never been... Like, the parity has never been more obvious, and there's nothing to indicate that that's slowing down. Like, there are going to be... Indiana is an interesting kind of test study for this, right? Because I had no idea at any point during the season until that graphic came out showing how much each program had spent or had for an allocated name, image, and likeness budget. I had no idea that Indiana was pouring $13 million into their football team last year. Maybe that's not enough to get them to national championship contention, but it opens the door for them to be able to build upon this past year and to create something that may be more viable. Now, I don't know that they're ever going to be able to take on the likes of Alabama or Georgia or anything like that, but I would dispute the notion that we will never have a scenario where 12 teams in today's environment, again, the environment could change and completely nuke how I'm thinking about this, but I don't think it's ever been more plausible to at some point have 12 teams capable of competing for a national championship.
12 teams seems excessive, but
Sure.
Here's the thing. I knew that going in. I was perfectly okay with it. I said, I know that SMU's not going to win the national championship. I know that, but I want them in. I am okay with Arizona State being in, even though they're not even ranked in the top 12, just for the off chance that something might happen. And what happened? Arizona State and Texas gave us one of the best playoff games of the college football playoff era, 4-team or 12-team. ASU fell just short, but they were a fourth down stop away in overtime from pulling off one of the biggest upsets in college football history in the postseason and moving on. Got to turn your mic on to tell me.
That's my fault. That's like the first time that a lower seed, how many upsets did we have in the college football playoff this year? Like by seeding, I know that there were some upsets, but like actual upsets. Like
upsets?
Point spread upsets.
Oh, point spread upsets. Georgia certainly was a favorite over Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, Ohio State was definitely a favorite over Oregon, so it was an upset by seeding, but not by point spread.
Let's take I don't know, you can't outright take the seeding out of it, but like it takes one SMU upset over Penn State. It takes one Indiana upset over Notre Dame.
To say, see?
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
Yeah.
And that might, and maybe it's reactionary in the moment because it's a one-game sample size that you would try to apply to a much larger scale, and that's not viable. But like I'm saying about SMU and Indiana and teams or programs, rather, that have delved into this and are only going to add more fuel to the fire, it's what makes me insane about my basketball program. Because I know they have money, and they waste it on people that aren't going to elevate the program to the place where it deserves and can financially get to. That's the thing that makes me the most insane, which is why I love Indiana as a sample size, because you can turn that thing into something viable within the Big Ten where it's never mattered. It's never mattered ever. Indiana football has been a wasteland its entire existence, except for, maybe like 4 years across its history.
Yeah. Looking at the top 8 of the Big Ten football standings last year.
Well, wait. Can we do this coming up next?
We got Slate coming up next.
Oh, that's fair.
If Minnesota would have been the 8th seed in the Big Ten last year, I don't think Minnesota, who went 5-4 in the Big Ten last year, deserves a path to the college football playoff. And if the Big Ten were to adopt this play-in format with 4 play-in games that the SEC is talking about, that they're both talking about, Minnesota, despite going 5-4 in conference play, and then they go 7-5, maybe 8-4 last year, would have a path to the college football playoff. They wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. They'd probably get dusted by whoever they play in the play-in game. But still, that's where it starts to get watered down for me. 12 felt perfect.
Yeah, maybe there's an extension of this in the basketball world that we can bring up with Slay, because Slay's going to join us in studio. We can take some of your phone calls as well. Coming up next, I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you like so many other people have been helped over the course of the last decade plus, whether it's erectile dysfunction that you are seeking treatment for or low testosterone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is able to provide you all manner of different options to help get your life back on track, because lots of guys go through this. As they age, your body starts to change. You see some different levels of performance that you may not be accustomed to, or you may be trying to regain again. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you as Nashville's premier men's health clinic for erectile dysfunction, testosterone replacement, and male enhancement. You can go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to see all the various areas that they have available for you, all the various treatment protocols that they have available for you, and they are customized to your body and to your needs. It's not one size fits all. So call them today at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or you can make an appointment online for their Franklin or Midtown location at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. There's always some heat when Ron Slay enters the building. You got him on 3HL 3 to 6 weekdays. You got him on the SEC Network. He has just returned from his latest venture down to Charlotte. He is now in studio with us. Always a pleasure to bring the Boom Boom Room to our, dysfunction here from 10 to 1. What's happening, big dog?
Man, let me just say.
What's wrong?
Me and Bert, like, our relationship is more than just, the physical aspect of seeing each other, high five, give each other love, embracing. Like, it's like on a different level. And that's why I appreciate him just bringing me this wire that he knew probably wasn't going to work, that he was so sure that was going to work for my headphones. So I missed all of that great introduction because my headphones wasn't working.
Because he tried to fix a problem and then gave you a faulty solution. Do you understand? Because I also have a similar relationship with this creature who at least poses to me a front, actually multiple creatures, who at least pose the front of trying to be helpful to me to accomplish my goals on a regular basis, our team goals, and then just are actively working to undermine me. Bert, I think, does it in a genuine fashion. These other two, I don't trust.
Pan like that. Smiley, I know. All right, Smiley trying to do something underneath the table type stuff.
Well, I told you.
Smiley got black market deals going on.
No, everything's over the table over here. There's no front. There's no front. The goals are very clear.
Slay, I kneecap both of them from the front. I'm not doing it shady.
You ain't sneaking in and doing it.
Well, my stated goal, because you call him Smiley, and I would like to see him smile less. You don't do enough. You're not good enough at your job to smile as much as you smile on a regular basis.
He's trying to take his shine, Slay.
Yeah, that is my stated goal. I'm going to take all the shine from everywhere else in the room.
Let him live.
And bring it here, except for when Slay's here, because I enjoy it. So,
what up, though?
We were just talking a great deal before we pivot into the basketball about the state of collegiate athletics, the shift that is continuing to be undergone on the football side of things, and because you have conversations at every level about the state of your sport, college basketball, be it men's or women's.
Right.
I am fascinated to know how much of the dialogue on the basketball side of things is applicable to football, because football is so dominant in the scale of money making that I'm looking at basketball and seeing some of the changes that it's undergone on more on like coaches who are still equipped to do the job the way the job needs to be done. And I wonder what you make of the entire landscape right now.
It's weird, man. I think first you got to start with the athlete. This is a new generation of athlete. The athlete, even though in age have gotten older, mentally they seem to be able to still stay younger, if that makes any sense.
It's a maturity thing.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you look at it, and because of COVID and all these things, like, you got guys reclassifying in high school, coming into football and basketball. They're getting into college, they're 19, 20 years old. You would think, I remember me as a 19, 20-year-old, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm grown. You know what I'm saying? I came in at 17. So 3 more years after that, it was a different mindset.
Sure.
Vince and Yarbrough the same way. So our thinking was different. We were starting to think like pros. When these guys are coming in, they're thinking a little bit differently as far as what's been put in front of them earlier. Not necessarily who the messenger is, but the message and how it's being delivered. It can be delivered by anybody. You know what I'm saying? But the delivery on the message is much more important nowadays than who it is delivering the message. You know what I'm saying, if that makes sense. So take, for instance, all of these guys walking away when you look at basketball. Jay Wright, Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim.
In the middle of the season.
In the middle of the season. Tony Bennett coming off removed of 4 years from an NCAA championship. Like, all of these guys, now you start to see the disconnect. What's going on in Kansas with Bill Self? Mike Woodson with Indiana.
It's so bothersome to me that we can run all these other old coaches out of the sport, and Mike Woodson's still there.
It's weird. Then you take, even when you pull back and you take the orange-tinted glasses off and look at Tennessee, you look at the people that walked away, and you're like, whoa, you're scratching your head. Julian Phillips left early. Yeah, they could have been a one and done, but they also could have came back and helped their draft stock as well.
Like Cam Carr.
In the middle of the season. You had Jordan Bone, if you think about him leaving his junior year. You know what I'm saying? Like, after having a great campaign to be able to come back. So it's a lot of situations that you look at and you scratch your head like, man, there's got to be something that's a little bit different. So I think when you relate that to football, it's pretty much the same thing, man. It's the maturity of it and the delivery of this message. It's such a wide gap as far as the bridge to these student athletes or to these professionals. That older generation, at some point, usually used to walk out on its own. Sometimes it looks like it's being forced out with this turnover that happens so quick with NIL and transfer portal and all this stuff.
I suppose I don't have to tell you that Ron Slay's in studio with us because you can hear him. You hear him every day from 3 to 6. You can watch him on the SEC Network.
Doesn't it make what Bruce is doing at Auburn just unbelievable right now? Because we talk about Mike Woodson like he is this dinosaur.
He is.
Right? That kids are like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know anything about his playing career. Bruce is 2 years younger than Mike Woodson.
Yeah.
Doing what he's doing at Auburn with the energy around that program right now.
No, he does an old man shuffle around the court the way that Woodson does and then forget where he is in the handshake line.
I'm going to go this way.
Maybe it's shedding the suit because Woodson still wears the suit, right?
That could be it.
And Bruce has gone for comfort now. You know, Bruce used to sweat through those suits, and now he's going with comfort. But I mean, how much of a gap is there right now between Auburn and everybody else? Not in the SEC, but in the country. To you.
Yeah, I think it's a wide gap. And I think when you look at it, though, you got to take into account of what we were just talking about. That's the oldest team in college basketball as well. They're older than the OKC Thunder. So, I mean,
that's insane.
That is nuts, ain't it? So that right there, that maturity we're talking about when they walking in 1920, well, Chad Baker Mazara, who's still having mental problems during the game, is 25.
Yeah.
With another year, if this rule passes, he can come back again. Janai Broom's 23, but he's played, so much basketball at that level, and it's just different. And also, you got to give a tip of the cap to their staff as well. Stephen Pearl, I believe, does a great job of being able to keep him young and be able to have his pulse on the team. Another guy is Marquise Daniels, like that. Those guys that Marquise Daniels is my age. You know what I'm saying? He just is removed from playing for real. So to be able to go in there and talk to these guys that you can relate to, you came from the same background as them, that's the other part of it. These guys that you're going out and recruiting, who relates to them? So after you give the X's and O's and this is what you need to do, all right, let's take that away. Now, how can you translate this conversation to them to understand, like, okay, this is what we need you to do. You get a guy like him who's come from that background and can understand how to get it to them and how to deliver the message. That's the accepting part. Bruce has always done a terrific job of that. Always.
Insanely consistent, Auburn has been all year long. For Tennessee.
That Alabama game, by the way.
Yeah. And to resist the run as Bama charged back and then just, again, be able to push them back at arm's length. And they've done it repeatedly all year. For Tennessee, the ups and downs have been a little bit more Jekyll and Hyde in the last 2 weeks. At this point in the year, 5 games to go in the regular season, how do you find a way to just kind of level off and figure out who you are? Vanderbilt felt like the most extreme example of it.
Yep. But if you're Tennessee, what you have to do is buckle down and understand you got to take care of what you can right there in front of you in the moment. A&M is going to be a difficult time going down to A&M. I expect them, honestly, to lose that game. I don't think the season is over after that, but I do believe that Alabama game will hold more weight walking into that one and being able to win that. But all the other ones are winnable. You should be able to handle business. You got to understand, too, man, you got 7 players that you're playing with. Really, I mean, 8 if you include Bishop, but 7 guys that you intend to go to war with. J.P. Estrella's out. Cam walked away, but they still haven't made excuses for that. So other guys have to understand who they are and be able to play how they're defended. Jemai Mashack, your man is sitting in the lane when they're trying to penetrate. You're not helping us. You have to shoot the ball if we pass it to you. Make a miss. You have to shoot the ball. It's part of it. So that's part of that, man. And everybody else, at this point in the season, man, it's favorable schedules. Missouri has a very favorable schedule where they can be able to waltz into getting probably that 3 seed if things hold true.
Big win last night.
A huge win, and they're a very good team, man. So Vanderbilt's another one. I think Vanderbilt will get in. The teams at the bottom, Arkansas, Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, can they get enough momentum to try to get into the tournament? But Auburn is head over heels better than everybody.
To your point about Tennessee and specifically Mashack, like trying to get through to him on that that does make me think about what you started the segment with, which is messaging. It's just, Coach, I don't want to take all the onus off the players because obviously it's incumbent upon them to adapt to the circumstances, to be able to have that basketball intellect to understand, no, this is how I best put my team in position to succeed based on what the individual brings to the table. I can't wait for the conference tournament. This is going to be an unholy mess. Dude. I know you guys are going to have exhaustive coverage with 3HL probably on site, and then the SEC tournament or the SEC network desk out there. But this is going to be a bloodbath.
This how serious it is, Buck. I looked ahead to see like who's scheduled to be calling the games on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday games. They got Jay Billis and Dan Schumann calling games on Wednesday. They got back-to-back games on the early games on Wednesday.
They know.
That's never happened, dog. And I already got a little wind of it, man. I think they're trying to come over game day and take over our early Friday. You know what I'm saying? And then give us the back end, the late-night games. So it's going to be interesting, dog. This is going to be top to bottom. You can look up, and Mississippi State, who's a lock in the tournament, is playing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Tennessee is playing on Thursday right now for sure. They could drop a couple of games and be playing on Wednesday. This is a number 2 seed. Just because where they are in the tournament, I think that's the other part. You can't get blinded by where they are in the ranking in the conference compared to where their schedule and resume holds up for them to be able to get seeded into a big tournament too. So
you said Tennessee currently a 2 seed, right?
Yep.
And that's what most bracketology has. But they'd have to get really hot down the stretch in the regular season to get back into that one line. But then you're talking about the plausibility of all 4 1 seeds being out of the SEC.
Yeah,
like is that
crazy.
Something that is actually real here that we're looking at? This could happen. It's not crazy.
It is, man. I think it's going to take a lot for Duke to get knocked out of there, for Houston to kind of fumble a little bit and not be able to go snatch a 1 seed, but. Easily, man. You look at Florida, they're not falling off. Auburn is not falling off. Tennessee or Alabama or Missouri or A&M can all challenge for that spot. I think the other part of it is, man, how much pressure does that put on the league to go and get one in? Like, it's no more, all right, y'all, we got to get as many teams as we can. We got to get past the Sweet 16. The Sweet 16 is an afterthought. If you go get 13 teams in, 8 teams should be walking into the Sweet 16 handedly. And then when you get to the Final Four, to the Elite 8, man, it's not far-fetched to say 5 or 6 teams should be in the Elite 8. And that's crazy to think of, but that's the way, honestly, it should go when you look at the total landscape of college basketball. Duke being one of the hottest teams, they're young. Houston being one of the hottest teams, they put more shooters around them, but we understand who Houston is. If they go cold like Tennessee likes to do, what are they going to do as far as scoring goes? So Marquette, another team, how much you want to put in the Cam and them? You know what I mean? I don't know, man. The SEC is super strong. If they don't get it this year, I don't even know what you go back to the drawing board with.
I don't expect Kentucky to win a title this year.
Right.
But
that's another team.
I hate that Mark Pope is having this much success and that it is sustainable and that he is doing all of the things that we just talked about, coaches of a certain generation not being willing to do or not being capable of doing. And I looked at that Vanderbilt game last night at half, and I said, okay, Vandy, one trailing by 1, heading into half. Yeah. You can find ways to build upon this, and then they very much didn't. And Kentucky just their percentage from the field, just again ungodly.
It's crazy.
What do you make of that entire experience in Lexington? Because I know that you have to be objective on the SEC network.
Yeah,
I do not, and so I am on the precipice of seeing them bring back an Indiana-Kentucky series, whether it be home and home or whether it be neutral court, and I am terrified. After Cal's gone, and you could not have convinced me that when they hired Mark Pope, and I pointed at them and I laughed, Slay.
Yeah.
I laughed at them, that they would be this functional as a team, and in fact, a better version of Kentucky than I have seen, I would argue, in a decade.
And they're banged up.
Yeah, and they're banged up. They're doing this without any point guard.
I hate this. I hate it.
Dog, but the funny thing is they're going to start to get healthy. You saw Chandler, who came in and played great minutes, handling the ball. So they will be 10 to 11 deep It's kind of like that guy, man, that you saw early in the year walk into the school and his little body was dangling. He had glasses on, the pimples and everything. He was breaking out with bad acne. But then at the midway point, the basketball season started. He like, damn. What happened? He grew 4 inches in 2 months. Now you don't wear the glasses no more. Taking off dunk. That's Mark Pope.
Prom king.
That's Mark Pope, dog. Like, he's won everybody over. He's such a nice guy, but now you look at him on the court.
I like Mark Pope.
It is what it is.
The glow up. It's that picture of Tom Brady from when he was at the combine to now.
That's it. The only thing you'll be able to hang your hat on, no Buck, they don't play defense.
Yeah.
Like it's travel with Mark Pope from BYU, being in the Big 12. It's an understanding that all coaches know his offensive system is impeccable. It's beautiful. The ball movement, the giving the people the right players in the system, all of that is great. They won't stop me, you, Lucas, Burton, Smiley. We got to put Smiley down low, though. But they ain't going to stop us five from scoring the rock. I can guarantee you that. So it's how much do they lock in? That's why they need a guy like Lamar Butler back out there to kind of spearhead that defense. But other than that, man, it's going to be rough on them. It's going to be rough on them.
We are locked in with Ron Slay, 3HL, 3 to 6, SEC Network, of course, throughout the course of the regular season, conference tournament on the horizon here in Nashville. We're looking forward to seeing all the great coverage that Slay has for everybody involved. Now, Lucas wants to ask you hockey questions coming up next.
Oh, yeah? That's what you want?
Are you up for this game tonight?
Hell yeah, I'm up for this game tonight.
Because there's some interesting crossover discussion, too, with the NBA All-Star Weekend happening at the same time. PK Subban had some things to say the other day on ESPN that we could play for you.
I would love to hear it because I haven't heard it.
I have not heard it either, so we'll react to that live with Slay coming up next. All right, Ron Slay's in studio, so we're getting ready to talk about hockey. Right? That's
the two I put together.
Right?
Hell yeah.
That's what
Physicality.
Well, there's something to be said about that, but basketball and hockey have had a great deal of at least conversational crossover here in the last week. You got the NBA All-Star Week that by most, I won't say total consensus, but by most people was panned,
right,
versus the Four Americas tournament, this round-robin situation, which is getting ready to culminate tonight.
Let's go.
In a huge game between the USA and Canada, and a lot of athletes from both sports speaking out on both sides about the juxtaposition between basketball and hockey at this particular time. So I want, Lucas pulled this audio clip from PK Subban, former Nashville Predator, who's doing a lot of analysis on ESPN right now, and he is also talking about the difference between specifically basketball players, NBA players, and hockey players.
What are you playing for? Like, if you're really about it, if you're really about sports, then you're about two things: your teammates and the fans. And I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. When you do not show up to play, you're letting your teammates down. When you do not show up to play, you're letting the fans down that are paying you 40, 50, 60 million. I don't care if you're getting 300 million. Congratulations. But these people in here are paying $2,500 a ticket, $5,000, that are blue-collared, hard-working people. If you don't get your head wrapped around that, you shouldn't be in pro sports. Because how are we going to grow? How do we expect you to be an example? Well, guess what? You don't want to be? You are one. You're on the biggest stage. You just said it. They make the most money. You're an example. You got to show up. You got to take that on. I'm sick and tired of making athletes greats, all-time greats, that aren't the best examples. Those are the people that we want our kids to follow, that we want athletes to follow. That helps us in our game. Stephen A., you want athletes to be educated on this and understand this. They got to understand the importance of showing up to the All-Star game and being on the court. And playing banged up sometimes. And playing injured maybe at times. Thank you. And participating, because here's the thing. Because you're making 100, 200, 300 million, you should be out there banged up. You should be. That's why we pay you, is to max out. We talk about greatness and it being the longevity of somebody's career. I don't care if you play 50 years. I want your best 10. I want you on the court dominating. I want you to go all out. I want Michael Jordan. I want Kobe. That's what I want in every sport. That's the guy that I follow. If you're a different version than that, you don't get my respect. That's me, and that's my angle. That's who I am. But I think we got to be very careful on that.
You know what? I think he's hitting it on the head, but he's keeping it right there at the All-Star game.
Yes.
I think that, to me, that's the problem.
Well, that's because that's what he knows, right? That's what he just saw.
Right, and that's cool, but I think what he's chipping away at is you're knocking, and the elephant in the room is LeBron James not playing in the All-Star game. Understand him, but you got to look back over the span of All-Star games too. Yao Ming didn't play in the All-Star game and came in a suit or his street clothes and took the picture. Kobe Bryant, the person that you just mentioned, did the exact same thing in the All-Star game, set out an All-Star game because of the rest and the minutes that these guys logged. So I think that's the wrong perspective of it. I think something that needs to be looked at is when you take the money out of it, and it's a Netflix documentary out right now, Court of Gold, documenting the USA team. People ought to go watch that. They played that game they played for the USA team for no money. The pride and all of that was out there on the floor. It did mean more for these guys, a guy 39 years old to go out there and play. Steph Curry, 36-year-old, who know he need to have his legs for the season, where he's getting paid $40 million and the franchise is riding on his back, to go and say, I am going to play in this, and to play the way and the level that they played against the competition of the world, where that level is definitely risen way above what a watermark was when we started. So I understand what he's saying, but it's one thing to say that and then to understand like what moves the seats, what moves and puts the people butts in the seats. It's a different game between hockey and basketball. You know what I'm saying?
No, and I think it's a failed comparison, specifically because right now the four nations.
That's for your nation.
It's for your nation. The All-Star week and game are totally different as far as what the stakes are. The comparison is Four Nations and the Olympics for USA basketball for the level of pride, the level of effort, but obviously that's a couple of, that's further removed.
Right.
And you just had a weekend where there's no football, there's hockey, and there's basketball.
One doesn't.
I mean, the ratings on the hockey were insane. 10.1 million people.
The NHL looks like the smartest person in the room.
That was perfect timing.
So let me pose it to you like this, Slay, because this is the thing that I don't have an answer to that you may have more insight on, that assuredly you would have more insight on. The idea of what the NHL has done, and we'll see what they do moving forward, but they nixed their all-star competition for this Four Nations thing. The NBA has tried Europe versus America before. Right. There, I think, is enough of an international basketball contingent in the league right now to where you could set up a similar type of play. But I'm looking at the American basketball players who are, and I think LeBron is a part of this problem.
No question.
He's not the sole issue, but he's a part of this problem, that they are projecting to their audience that these things that they are currently going through don't have value. So I'm wondering, and you, again, this is something that I've just been thinking about, like the idea of, is there reticence, is there any sense of reticence on the American basketball players' side of things to participate in a competition like what we're seeing in hockey right now? Because I think the Europeans would love it. I think they would die for the opportunity to compete at that level.
No question at all. If you take the Euro League, which is over in Europe, and you bring that over here and say, what we're going to do is set 2 weeks aside, move the All-Star game out, take 5 games out of the NBA season and make this a tournament, hell yeah. And everybody would be watching. It's already a global game, and I think we get a little bit unfocused on how big the game is because we look at numbers just now in the United States and say, the basketball game viewers are down. Man, if you take a kid over there and you put him in a Luka Doncic jersey, or you put him in an Andre Bargnani jersey over in Italy or in Spain, them kids are going to run to the arena. It ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So you can't be blinded. It is a global market that the viewers are looking at. But when you're talking about in the United States, how do you tweak it? That's exactly how you do it. You take those guys from over there, you can make 3 teams up from over there. It's that much talent over there playing. And you can come right over here and play and make 2 teams of NBA guys, international and NBA All-Stars. Put them together, let them rock, amen, and that'll be it. That's exactly what you're looking for. That's the only way you're going to get that spirit and level of competition. Because when you have that on your jersey, it's different. You at the All-Star game, this is me. This is individual accomplishment. What you talking about? I'm representing Phoenix Suns, Lakers, all that's cool. I did this.
Yeah.
The Lakers didn't put me here. I did this. So what are you going to do? Put on the NBA brand. That's what we playing for. Put me out there versus Team International versus the other European teams. Now you got something to play for. Then you can have that spirit of competition. Then you'll have people like Joel Embiid, who played in the USA games and was out there limping around, shouldn't have been playing. Now he can't play for Philly. You'll have people like that Kawhi Leonard, who ain't played for the Clippers yet, but went out there and was trying to give it his all to play for the USA. That's why, because it's something else different online. And it's nothing more embarrassing than a game that you started, you get beat on a national stage with.
No, it's Knicks Mello versus Olympic Mello. That's as big an example as I can find. Perfect. But that Slay, it comes back to me to Adam Silver, and I take this position as a non-player. So I'm looking at labor versus management, and it's rare that I take the side of management needing to have more oversight into this. But he's just so deferential to them. And we talked about David Stern yesterday. I cannot imagine what David Stern would think of even the Luka Doncic trade.
Yeah, he doing cartwheels.
But that's what I'm saying.
He doing cartwheels
from the beyond.
Yeah, ain't no lie about it, man.
I think Adam Silver is the worst of the major professional sports commissioners because of what the denigration of the product has become. And I think he is almost, not exclusively, but he bears a huge portion of the blame.
It's him. I think a lot of the owners, Mark Cuban and them, were all up in arms, but everybody started pointing and said these guys are crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Adam Silver stepped up for the players. This is what you got to be careful of, though. You lose that power, and the CBA comes back around, and you lose a little bit of that money. You're not able to get it. It already was a split a couple of years ago where they gave more power and more money as far as to the owners and them being able to recoup more, which was supposed to go to the players. And the players were like, cool, all right, what is $100 billion? All right, cool. We all right. We still got other money to play with.
Right.
Dude, you hit them pockets a little bit harder, watch it all change. And if them fans switch and go like the NFL and show loyalty to the franchise instead of to the players, then you got something to talk about. Then you can switch it. Until then, it's going to be difficult because when my jersey goes up and they start to sell it, think them kids ain't going to buy their jersey? It's different.
By the way, Victor Wembanyama out for the season.
What happened?
That broke 5 minutes ago. Shams tweeting it out. He's expected to miss the remainder of the season with a deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. So if that America versus Team Europe competition happened right now, wouldn't be no Wemby in it.
Yeah. See, that
sucks.
That's tough.
How much you getting up for this game tonight, USA Canada?
I'm geeked. I'm gonna be right there in front of the TV. I'm screaming. I'm gonna be tweeting. I'm gonna be going. I'm treating this like a pro football, college football game. I'm all in on this. I need USA in Boston. I need Boston fans to be Boston fans.
Do they need to boo the Canadian anthem?
All I'm saying is be Boston fans. Whatever that entails, go be Boston. Don't change now. Don't be all of America. Be Boston fans, dog. Them some different fans.
I mean,
be them.
They're different for a variety of different reasons.
Be them.
In fact, they all look the same. They're different for different reasons.
Go be you, and then leave us as a nation where we can point and say, Boston, why are you acting that way? But at the same time,
just this one time.
Good job, big guy.
It's like giving a dog food under the table.
Yeah, like, it's all right. Go get him.
Ron Slay, 3-6, getting you ready for USA versus Canada. Thanks for stopping by.
No doubt, baby.
Always a pleasure to have Slay in studio. Speaking of USA Canada, we'll talk about this hockey game coming up next.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The NFL informed teams on Wednesday that the 2025 salary cap would be between $277.5 million and $281.5 million. The final figure will be determined after further negotiations with the NFLPA. That was from Dan Graziano of ESPN. It means the cap will go up by over $22 million from 2024. Tonight, Team USA Hockey takes on Canada in the Four Nations Face-Off Championship game at TD Garden in Boston. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. on ESPN. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Thursday. Thanks for jumping in, spending some time. We've got a lot of intrigue ahead of the NFL Combine next week. Of course, I'm going to be up there. We are looking forward to talking to both Brian Callahan and Mike Borgonzi. Those are expected to be on Tuesday. Obviously, the Titans are the primary reason, but we are also we'll call it cautiously optimistic that we're going to get other people from other teams to join our conversations throughout the course of the week that can help inform not just things around the Titans, but things around the league and how those things obviously impact the Titans. Because this is an offseason where the Titans have as much leverage as any other point since, Lucas, I would argue, my first year covering them, which was 16. My first full season covering them, which was 16, the last time they had the number 1 overall draft pick and traded out of it.
Easily. And the amount of options they have with the number 1 overall pick, which they exercised one of those options in 2015, which was a very complicated trade out of one. It didn't include a player, but to go back to 15, right? They traded back and then traded back again, and a lot went into that.
Well, you mean traded back and then traded up.
Yes, sorry, traded back and then traded up. But the amount of options on the table, because this is more interesting than that one to me. That team.
Well, there's no clear consensus at quarterback the way.
Exactly.
I say that. There seems to be consensus that Cam Ward is the best of the quarterbacks.
Well, I thought you meant in terms of the Titans. That 2015 Titans team, you knew who the franchise quarterback was at that time. It was Marcus Mariota. They just took him with the number 2 pick. So they could go so many different avenues with this number 1 overall pick. Anybody saying they think they know what the Titans are going to do with it would be lying.
Or putting too much, because I don't, I get why that's your reaction, but I think that people can, because a lot of this stuff gets put out there. What did we talk about before the Titans season even ended? Before the clock had hit zeros in the Texans game in Week 18. Who was it that was putting out how much the Titans were in love with Cam Ward?
Oh, it was Benjamin Albright.
Yes, in Denver.
Yeah, during the game.
And then the general manager got fired. Mm-hmm. And you're asking what's the relevance of that report before the game's even over.
Yeah. The only thing we can do is listen to what they say, and everything they have said at every single turn has leaned towards a trade back in terms of their philosophy of building this thing.
My point is that lying to people that you think will put stuff out there to benefit you, however it ends up benefiting you, it does happen. But I do think it's also incumbent upon people who are responsible for putting out information to, one, understand how much value to actually assign at the time that you are getting that information, right? Like, is it pre-combine? Is it post-combine? Is it after free agency? Like all these different things that have critical importance to how the pre-draft process ends up playing itself out. Versus, actively just leaking lies out into the media to best benefit, whomever might be leaking that. So the pre-combine buzz about Cam Ward is fascinating here because you will see opinions change from the end of the 2024 regular season to right before the draft, and they will change. We have just too much time to talk about these things. And so a lot of times people will talk themselves into circles. A lot of times people will make themselves have to basically second guess their own evaluations, even though you watch the player, you made the evaluation, and they say, enough time passes. Maybe I'm going to watch this player again. Maybe I'm going to take some additional info or insights into my evaluation? And do I really feel this certain type of way about a player? Like, you just have enough time to second guess. But right now, there's some really credible people speaking out about the number one overall pick, and specifically Cam Ward as the number one overall pick. One of those people is Louis Riddick. Louis Riddick, a former personnel executive in the NFL, a former NFL athlete, now doing analysis for ESPN. And this was courtesy of, I believe, First Take, where he was talking about Cam Ward.
We'll say this about Cam Ward, and I have no issue about what he did in the bowl game.
Really?
I don't care about that. I don't, because you know what? Look, this guy, think about Cam Ward's story from his start at Incarnate Ward as a 0-star recruit. 0 stars. 0. Goes to Washington State, rips it up at Washington State, and decides to transfer to Miami because he knew he needed to up his resume in terms of winning, in terms of being able to win it at the highest level, because that's what we always judge quarterbacks by. I got to talk to this guy now 3 different times. Got to talk to him at Washington State up there in Pullman. Got to talk to him down in Tampa when they played South Florida this year, and we did that game, and got to talk to him again before they played Georgia Tech. Ask Mario Cristobal about the kind of leader that this guy is and what he did to Miami football in the offseason from the time he decided to transfer from Washington State to the time they stepped on the football field. He took over this program, they said, like no one he has ever seen it. And Mario has played with some great players, some of the greatest of all time at the U. This guy is the ultimate consummate leader. He plays with a gigantic-sized boulder on his shoulder. It's not a chip. It's a boulder. He is very confident in the work that he has put in, and he should be, because he's supremely smart, he is supremely talented, and he's deadly serious about the game. And he feels as though, even at this point in time, people still don't really believe that he's as good as he is. And he can play. He directed that passing attack down there at Miami this year with the kind of precision and kind of maturity that is worthy of being considered a number one overall pick. It just is. And when he gets to the NFL level, he will be the guy who, what is the first thing that people said about Jaden Daniels when he went to Washington? They were surprised not surprised, that everyone was impressed about the fact that he was there at 5 a.m. every day and he's the last guy to leave. And that's not just for show, it's because that's part of his process. It's the same thing with Cam Ward. And he will have that same kind of effect. He may not be warm and fuzzy to everybody, because this dude is assassin serious about his craft. And I believe him when he says he's going to try and make everybody pay. And I don't think that's just hyperbole.
So again, it's, I don't think that it's just hyperbole, right? We're still operating without a degree of certainty because we have to. This is still, at the end of the day, educated guessing. But I value what Louis Riddick is saying there, because what did Louis Riddick point out at the start of that clip? He's talked to this guy a bunch beyond just doing some of his games and watching his tape. He has had the interaction that the Titans have yet to have, specifically with Cam Ward.
I love Mad Dog. When Lewis said, I don't care about the bowl game thing. Mad Dog's like, really?
Oh, was that Mad Dog?
Shocked. Yeah, Mad Dog with him on the desk. Shocked that he's not using the sitting out in the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl against Cam Ward. I'm prepared.
Don't say anything bad about Mad Dog.
I'm prepared for, I love Mad Dog. He is a national treasure.
I'll say I will back you down so fast.
But I am prepared for the laziness of the opinion that Cam Ward doesn't care about his football team because he didn't play in the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Some dope is going to put it out there.
Like that wasn't a team decision. Like that didn't also benefit Miami to find out more about what they had in their backup quarterback as they get ready. Like more and more teams are going to do this. I get the opt-out frustrations. And there can be criticisms there of today's player, whatever. But let's not do the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl thing as any sort of controversy.
And then Cosell and I did the podcast this morning. Now, this is less. This was more just kind of an adjacent part of the conversation that we were having around the Titans and the Combine today on the podcast. You can check out the install. Jackson, where?
Wherever you get your podcast, video coming later.
Okay, video you can expect later this afternoon. You can, of course, subscribe to 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel to watch that. We'll do it live, not just at the Combine next week, which we're looking forward to, but we also have the live show coming up with Greg here in Nashville, where we'll break down the entire Titans draft class and free agency group. You can get your tickets now at 1045thezone.com for as low as $30. This was Cosell kind of talking about the Titans and the number one overall pick, but then adding his own little Cam Ward aside.
What you do then with the draft? I mean, unless there's someone you absolutely... Look, we know the names, the Travis Hunters, the Abdul Carters. Who knows about the quarterback situation? I personally think Cam Ward is worthy of a number one pick, but, that may be me. But if they don't see that, and they may not, then do you want to just start, if someone makes a great offer, do you want to take that because you can start accumulating players? And this is a team we know they probably feel they need a quarterback, but they also need a lot of players.
So it was just an aside, right? Greg is talking more about the strategy of the Titans as opposed to Cam Ward, the player, but that's not inconsequential. We're going to have a quarterback episode, which is why I didn't want to dig deeper on that specifically today. That'll be later, and you can subscribe to the install wherever you get your podcasts. But he is a fascinating prospect because of not just his journey, but because of his talent married with his personality, and the personality that more and more people are finding out with, because whatever this training session at UNLV that the two of them had, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, I don't know when it was specifically, but more and more clips have come out from it, and it's Cam Ward. It's a lot of trash talk from Cam Ward. Like, we've gotten calls about people, aren't you worried that Shedeur Sanders and his personality and his dad on Twitter and all that'll be too much? Have you seen Cam Ward talk and behave and carry himself?
He is by far the more outsized personality.
Way more outsized of a personality, louder, more abrasive, more aggressive. I love it. I love that. As somebody who is going to be tasked with manifesting good football into existence, obviously skill and adaptation and coachability and all these different things, intellect, all of these things will matter, but I love the attitude. I want 11 players with the attitude of Cam Ward on my football team. I think it is something that you cannot recreate. It's not something that's coachable. We talked about these things we talked about it with NPF to a different degree. We talked about it with Mariota. People have discussed this with Justin Herbert. Like, the demeanor, the way that you carry yourself, and how much that can actually influence your level of play. Cam Ward's got it. That is the kind of it factor that when people talk about and can't quantify, you can see that.
I'd like to learn more about his dudeness factor. There's no question that his dog is off the charts. Sanders has the dudeness. Sanders is used to being under pressure, used to running for his life, and how he has handled that is part of the knocks against him, holding onto the ball too long, taking too many sacks, some of these things. But I would love to know more about the dudeness factor with Cam Ward, because he didn't face a ton of high-pressure moments late in games against quality competition last year. He led Miami on a massive charge back against Cal. They were down, 24 in the second half, whatever it was, 139-38 on the road. It's also a Cal team that, if I'm not mistaken, went 6-6 last season. He fell short a couple times in one-possession losses to Georgia Tech, to Syracuse, games that ultimately knocked Miami out of the college football playoff discussion. But I'm not even being facetious when I say that. What I wish we had more of a sample size of was Cam Ward in big moments with the weight of a big game against a quality defense on his shoulders.
Yeah, that the quality of competition is going to be brought up a lot, and it's a fair criticism. Like, I think people, it's really tough, right? Because you try to navigate these conversations each and every year. There are people who will take the professional criticisms as personal. The players will obviously take any criticism personally and use that to fuel themselves, or, maybe they won't live up to the moment, and maybe they won't prove people wrong about how that goes, how they are viewed throughout the course of the process. And it's always something that you have to be willing to accept new information as the process plays itself out. But the thing that you cannot change is the tape. That's out there. Like, the games have been played. The Senior Bowl is the closest thing that you're going to get to it, and obviously neither of those quarterbacks participated. So now it's about, all right, tape evaluation first and foremost. What do the advanced analytics tell us to help us inform what we're seeing on tape? And then, who is the person? Those are the three pillars of the evaluation process. And how much weight teams assign to each of those respective pillars is incumbent upon the organization. But it's tough to kind of navigate through what's fair criticism and what's not unfair criticism, or what's unfair criticism. Coming up next, Titans wide receiver options in free agency versus the draft. Where is this specific team best served addressing that need? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Another snow day in Music City. School is out for the most part, and I get it. Maybe you're staying in, you're keeping warm, but Hattie B's is doing something special today on this Nashville snow day. Kids eat free at every Hattie B's location with the exception of the Nashville airport. The factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West. Again, kids eat free all day at Hattie B's, a family-run restaurant, serving up your favorite Southern food and authentic Nashville hot chicken. You know it is the best on the planet. By the way, also the best sides in town. If you're like me, the sides are critically important. The pimento mac and cheese, my personal favorite, but the Southern greens, the bacon cheese grits, you just can't go wrong. You want to skip the line? Download the Hattie B's app. Order for delivery, order for pickup through the app. Skip the line, walk in, get your Hattie B's famous hot chicken, and head back to the office. You get a free dessert just by downloading the Hattie B's app. Again, kids eat free at Hattie B's on this Nashville snow day.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world, the best way to warm up on a very chilly day in Middle Tennessee. 15 degrees outside last I looked. Okay. You have thoughts?
Kids eat free.
Oh, kids eat free at Hattie B's?
All day today at every location except for the airport.
Okay. Yeah, maybe don't take your kids to the airport just to go to Hattie B's, though there are worse reasons, certainly worse reasons to go to the airport.
Tyler on the FNM Bank chat says he's on his way to Hattie B's with an IM12 paper.
I am also considering Lucas is the most childlike among us visually.
On and off the field, I would say.
No, I think from a maturity standpoint, I would rival you in this category. But, how tall are you? What are you, like 5'9"?
6'4", 6'6".
Yeah, nobody believes that. I am, maybe we try this at a Hattie B's location. Maybe we take social media content and we send it to Nick Bishop's Jr. and Senior after the fact, the wonderful owners of Hattie B's, and we try and see if we can get Lucas by their staff as pretending that he's a child. How old could we reasonably pass Lucas off for? Or how young, I guess?
I think 16.
Oh, 16.
Have you seen 16-year-olds lately?
Yeah. The 16-year-olds look like 12-year-olds.
We got to find like a 7-footer to make him look smaller.
The older you get, the younger.
What's the height difference between you and me?
I don't know. I'm 5'10" and 3/4. You know you're under 6 foot when you're including like half or 3/4. Yeah.
I'm 6'2". Could I reasonably?
No.
Could I walk in with Lucas pretending that, I'm not old enough to have a 16-year-old child or maybe an uncle? I don't know.
Nobody's going to believe you have a child.
No, in fact, with that mustache, they would get you as far away from their child as humanly possible.
Good. That honestly, not for the purposes of looking like a sex offender, but I'm not a fan of children. Whatever keeps them further away from me, fine.
That's so messed up.
Somebody in the chat says some 16-year-olds look grown. I blame the antibiotic chicken.
I don't know, man. The older I get, the more I'll see a freshman in high school.
I thought you were going to say they stay the same age.
No, not going that route.
I would call Megan immediately.
The older I get, the more I'll see like a freshman in high school. I'm on a lot of high school campuses, and I'm like, that person can't be in high school. That person's got to be.
Because they look so young.
11 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. Did I look like that as a freshman?
Well, yeah, famously, you showed us your 8th grade spelling bee picture.
Oh, I can put it up on the stream.
That is right before freshman year. So, yeah, there I am, throwing stones again.
I had this experience so I graduated college in 2015, and last year was the first time that I've been back on Indiana's campus. It was Combine Week, actually, and I went to a basketball game because my sister, she's a senior now. I'm going to do the same thing on Wednesday, go to a basketball game with her on Wednesday, but I was on Indiana's campus for the first time in 9 years, and I looked around at the college kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I am so old. Why do you look so, they looked to me like 11-year-olds.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. The older you get, freshman in college looks like a freshman in high school.
Terrible. Anyway, if you are either under 12 or can pass as 12, you eat free at Hattie B's today. The thing that we are looking for is wide receiver help, either for the Titans in free agency or the draft. The answer is both. We can very quickly summarize this conversation by saying they need to spend more than a 6th or a 7th round draft pick on the wide receiver position this year, because that's as much draft capital, 1/6 and 1/7. Jaquan Jackson and Colton Dowell were the only 2 draft picks at wide receiver by Rand Carthon during his tenure here. They have not drafted. So Kyle Phillips and Traylon Burks were the last wide receivers that they drafted prior to Dowell.
Prior to
Colton Dowell.
Yeah, because it was just the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Dowell was 23. Yeah, okay. So Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, Colton Dowell, and Jaquan Jackson. None of them have worked out for a variety of different reasons. And there's availability is probably a common theme with all of them. Jaquan different, but.
No, you don't bank on any of them as a starter, the ones that you named that are still here in 2025.
To me, honest to God, Calvin Ridley is the only known commodity that I am willing to traffic in heading into 2025 in the Titans wide receiver room. Because NWI, Old Reliable, is an unrestricted free agent, and he's probably going to cost a lot more money, or at least a lot more money relative to what you've been paying NWI.
I mean, what is NWI looking at this year? Like a Jawan Jennings type of contract?
What was Jennings' contract, just for reference? Because I'm inclined to say yes, but Jawan Jennings was...
It was a 2-year, $15.39 million deal.
Oh, see, I think that's high for Nick. Because Jawan was more a part of their offense than NWI was at any given point. Now, any
Not
team...
this past year.
Well, yeah, but not Lucas, really not until after the bye. Like, I know that he caught 9 touchdowns, but if you look at the number of receptions he had, I mean, how many receptions did he have?
Yeah, no, his touchdown...
Like 25 receptions.
Per reception rate was insane.
It's ridiculous. So, maybe not 25 receptions, but it wasn't much more than that. So,
32.
32.
Wow, that is crazy low.
9 touchdown receptions on 32
catches. 497 yards, 9 touchdowns.
And really, he didn't have a target until when? It was like week 4, week 5 before he had a target.
Jennings was, not far from being Super Bowl MVP.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, they're not comparable. And Brian Callahan has talked about how much he regrets kind of slow playing the NWI thing when everybody else is looking around being like, what are you doing?
The Spot Track valuation, market value, calculated market value projection for him is an average annual salary of $3.9 million.
I would be happy to have Nick back at $3.9 million a year. I think he is reliable. He is a great person in the locker room. I don't just say that because I'm biased and he went to my alma mater, but like I have been so impressed with him because I saw what he was when he got here in the COVID training camp as a UDFA and what he is now, and it's night and day difference. Like he is a legitimate NFL wide receiver. And at the start of it, all of us were looking around and being like, what the hell are they doing with this guy in training camp? He actively hand fights the football when it comes in his direction. It just wasn't anything that looked like a professional wide receiver should look, other than he had special teams value, and he worked at it.
He's the most successful UDFA story, especially at that position for the Titans, since Drew Bennett. I mean, it's not close.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm so good. So let's run through this exercise because he is an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career. What is the most amount of money on an average annual basis that you would be comfortable paying Nick Westbrook-Ikhine? Because for me, it's 6.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 5.5. Bump up that Spot Track projection. I don't know if it would have updated after the reporting on the salary cap. I doubt it. So you definitely bump that number from 3.9, given that the cap's going up by over $22 million. So yeah, in that range, $6-ish million per year.
I'm so good with 6 to 6.5. I'm fine with it. He's worth it. He has proven it.
100%.
He has earned it, and I think that he will pay dividends after the fact on that. Like, I'm not worried about NWI falling off because he starts making $6 million a year as opposed to 1.115 or whatever.
After watching the Titans try to put together a roster via free agency last year, as much continuity, as much valuable continuity as you can get, not continuity just for the sake of continuity, but assuming there's a new starting quarterback in 2025 for the Titans, and assuming they're not going to try to bring back Tyler Boyd, you'd be talking about bringing back only Calvin Ridley as an actual part of this wide receiver rotation.
Correct.
In 2025. So, yes, from a continuity perspective and from just a value perspective, 100%. I don't think anybody would push back on that.
Now, here's the other component of this, because Treylon Burks does exist. He is a real person. He is under contract. They would have to eat guaranteed money. There is no cap savings in cutting Treylon Burks. He's still on his rookie deal. This would be the last season of his rookie deal, assuming, and I think it's a safe assumption, that they do not pick up the fifth-year option. Is there any scenario where we should be thinking about Treylon Burks as a contributing factor to this football team? Because to me,
No.
Lucas, you brought up first-round wide receivers the other day, or some kind of exercise where
I asked you who the last time the Titans spent a top 100 pick on a wide receiver. You said A.J. Brown.
Yeah. Ironically, because I do not think about Treylon Burks. And it's not just because he went on injured reserve, but because when he's out there, he is a non-factor. Yeah. Special teams is a fine role for Treylon Burks to try and cut his teeth and potentially get opportunities elsewhere. There is no sense in just cutting him for the sake of cutting him. You are not in a position where you can just afford to eat money like that. So he's here until he's not.
The best available wide receiver we know is T. Higgins. We don't know what the Bengals plan to do with him. There is reporting that they plan to franchise tag him and potentially work on a new deal. If they were to try to tag and extend, that deadline would be July 15th. But the Bengals have not done anything officially with T. Higgins. That's all reporting. So he's obviously the best free agent wide receiver, probably the best free agent overall, unless you want to factor in Sam Darnold just because of positional value across the league. The wide receiver that is available in free agency with the highest average annual value from 2024 is Stephon Diggs. 31 years old, coming off an ACL.
So let's just read the list of, we'll say, top 15 wide receivers. And this is in no particular order. Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Hollywood Brown. Then you get into the worlds of, weren't you obsessed with Demarcus Robinson? Wasn't that your...
I just wanted the Titans to bring in somebody.
So bizarre.
I mean, it
was 2 off seasons of you just fawning over.
No, this was 2 off seasons ago before they brought in DeAndre Hopkins, and we didn't know if they were going to happen. They just needed a body there.
There are also value plays that I would be interested in. For example, Van Jefferson at 29. I would be interested in Tutu Atwell.
Nashville native Van Jefferson.
At 26. Rondale Moore, even though he went to Purdue, I won't hold that against him. I think there are some interesting components here, value plays. The question is, so let's take it this way. Wide receiver in free agency. Are you paying top of market for a wide receiver in this year's free agency after you just paid at the top of tier 2? Calvin Ridley is a tier 2 wide receiver. He is being compensated as one of the best tier 2 wide receivers out there. I would argue justifiably. Some of you may push back on that. I am not interested in the Titans spending at the top of this wide receiver free agent class.
So
if T. Higgins is even available, because if T. Higgins is not available, that entrenches me in my position even more.
Where is the line of demarcation then from top of the free agent class to second tier of the free agent class? Because you're right, T. Higgins, maybe the line is after T. Higgins, but with him off the board, let's say, Titans aren't going to pay T. Higgins $30 million a year, we would think, right? Based on everything we've heard from them about being more conservative in their free agency approach, more selective. Is it Keenan Allen?
No, it's
or is it Stephon Diggs?
I think those two are.
Or is it Amari Cooper?
It's Cooper is more in that conversation than the two that you just mentioned. Honestly,
Chris Godwin's also coming off an injury.
Chris Godwin and Amari Cooper I would put in a category as the next tier down. I would also put Hollywood Brown in this conversation. I think Tutu Atwell is an underrated player, and maybe that's Rams specific because Sean McVay can do a lot of things with a lot of players that most teams can't do anything with or as much with. But I look more at Amari Cooper and Chris Godwin in the same category, and I think Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen belong at a lower tier. Like those two you're bringing in at the end of their careers for very specific type. Like what Hop was for the Chiefs. He was a role player. You need a starting caliber wide receiver to be opposite Calvin Ridley. And you likely need 2 because you're not going to have your starting 2 wide receivers, your best 2 wide receivers the entire season. It almost never happens. So I am looking at this and saying I would prefer the value play in free agency of a player that may be, underrated or not necessarily peak of their powers, but can give you meaningful snaps either as a reserve or in starting sets of your offense. And I would prefer them address the wide receiver 1 problem through the draft, even as I acknowledge that this draft class is not jam-packed loaded. There are wide receivers. There are wide receivers across the board that can play coming out of this year's draft class. But there is not like the 20 to 25 wide receivers that you could look at through days 1 through 3 and say, all right, those guys can legitimately start for me. You're looking at T-Mac out of Arizona. You're looking at Luther Burden. You're looking at Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State.
I love Tez Johnson out of Oregon.
You start to get it. You want Tez Johnson out of Oregon?
He's just my draft crush.
Okay, that's
but I
fine.
can see him sneaking into the first round, quite honestly, if he has a great combine.
So, and this is one big board that Trevor Sikkema, who we trust as a draft analyst, puts together for Pro Football Focus. He has, as an overall prospect, Tez Johnson graded out as the 92nd best player overall in this draft class. The players that are ranked above him specifically at wide receiver, Isaiah Bond, Savion Williams, Jalen Royals, Jaden Higgins, Xavier Restrepo out of Miami.
He is not high on Tez Johnson.
Jack Besh out of TCU, Senior Bowl hero. I'm going to mispronounce the Stanford wide receiver's name, Matthew Golden, and then you get into the top players that I mentioned.
The question is, how much money are you willing to spend on a wide receiver in free agency?
Not much after you especially with Ridley's cap hit going up.
What's not much? With the cap going up the way it is.
I'm not interested in spending more than, on an average annual basis, I would not be more interested in $15 million a year for a wide receiver.
Darius Slayton is available. I am fascinated at what his market value will be. SpotTrack projects it at 15.8 annually. Bump it up a little bit with the cap in mind, maybe in that 18 range. Slayton been sneaky productive for a Giants franchise that has not had consistency at the quarterback position over the last few years. He had 573 yards in 2024 on 71 catches and a pair of touchdowns. It is insane with what the Giants rolled out there at quarterback that they had a rookie going for 1,000 yards and Darius Slayton going for over 500. He's gone over 700 in each of the 2 seasons before that in 2022 and 2023. We remember his impressive rookie year out of Auburn when he burst onto the scene with 8 touchdowns in 2019. But that's the question here. What's the most you're willing to spend at the wide receiver position?
Well, it's not just about the spend, because what I think there's some crossover between what Ridley does and what Darius Slayton does, right? So you need to add more versatility, because you had a pretty, on paper, right? Hopkins was different than Ridley. Ridley was different than Boyd. Boyd was different than Hopkins. That made sense. And then you hoped, if you're the Titans, that Treylon Burks became something to throw into that mix, and then it never materialized, and NWI to save you again. It's a curious conversation. It is one of the most interesting off seasons they've ever had, and not just because they have the number 1 overall draft pick, but because the roster is a mess everywhere, and they have so many different ways that they can go about this. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls if you got them. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We're fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. I've made up my mind. I'm going to Hattie B's after work. I'm not going to try and pretend that I'm a child to get free food today for the snow day promotion that they have going on right now where your kids eat free at the nearest Hattie B's location, except for the airport. Not applicable there. But I have made up my mind. I just cannot decide whether I want wings or whether I want tenders today.
You will eat both with a fork.
Yes, that's true. That is true.
12 and under. 12 and under kids eat free today at Hattie B's.
All right.
Lucas, I think we should try it.
Give it a go.
Yes.
Hello, I am a child.
He makes fun of my mustache because of his because it's a mustache, but also because of his inability to grow facial hair. But he has just enough of a shadow that I don't think we can pass him off as a 12-year-old.
We'll give him a shave before we go.
I had more facial hair than he does right now at 12 years old. But that's specific to me and my Middle Eastern heritage.
It grows out very patchy. Yes, it is not pleasant.
This makes me think of Joe Dirt. Does it grow in on white trash like? Great movie. Hockey tonight. It is the Four Nations final. It is in Boston. It is USA versus Canada. 10.1 million people. Million households. So no telling how many people, but 10.1 million households watched the Saturday night exhibition between USA and Canada. The Tkachuk brothers.
Exhibition feels like the wrong way to
Brother, that's what it
go
is.
about it.
That's what it is. It's an exhibition. That's why I think people are comparing it to the NBA All-Star game, because they're both exhibitions. And when people are looking at the hockey one and be like, what do you mean? They're both exhibitions. But there's no NHL value to the Four Nations tournament. Brady Tkachuk is somebody who was very much involved in the premeditated fighting of the Canadian team 9 seconds into the game, where there were three fights within the first 9 seconds of play. And he spoke about fighting the Canadians or going out of his way to fight the Canadians. Was this before or after?
This was after. I believe this was intermission after the first period.
Oh, really? Okay.
You and your brother Matthew fight before this game got even started. What's the backstory? How did this develop?
You know what? I think it just happened pretty organically. Matthew said he wanted to go first, and just happened. And you know what? It's over and done with now. Now it's an opportunity to win the game here.
When did Matthew say that?
You know what? It's right when we found out the starting lineup. He said he wanted a piece of him, and then coordinated with Benny there, and and then Millsy, finished off with a big boy one too.
So we're all watching that, and it's insane. How do you manage your emotions after a start like that?
You know what? It's obviously it's an adrenaline rush, but just got to carry that over into each shift now, and now it's all about playing and doing whatever it takes to win.
And what's it been like out there? What are you feeling?
It's just another game right now. It's to be honest, you blocked out all the noise. It's all I care about is the 20 guys in that room right now and what it takes to win.
Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
3-1 the final.
The Tkachuks are very unlikable. Unless they're on your team.
Oh, yeah. They're a couple little psychos. It's great.
Like, if you are an NHL fan of a team that the Tkachuks do not play for, you probably hate them.
Yeah.
You probably have malice and hate in your heart for those two players, for those brothers, and you are probably thanking your lucky stars that they were born American and not Canadian.
I love his description of Matthew coordinating the fight. Yeah, he coordinated with Benny there, and like they're setting up a meeting or something.
Coordinated my fist with his face.
Yeah. No, boo. Brady Tkachuk, by the way, was at morning skate this morning with Team USA. He left the Sweden game injured a few days ago.
Yeah.
So it'd be tough to keep him out of this game.
Wait, which one left the Canada game injured and didn't return? Was that Brady too? Or Matthew?
I can't remember.
Because one of them left the game, was signaling to John Tortorella that he wasn't going to be able to go. I love that also Torts is on the USA.
You know who else is? John Hines.
John Hines?
Both brothers are expected to play tonight.
Okay. So
I saw John Hines on the bench there.
USA, first and foremost. I feel like hockey has the ability to unite us in ways that many other things in this country do not right now. Canada is obviously a particular touch point because of what's going on between the leader of the United States and the leader of Canada at this juncture in the geopolitical space. Do the Canadians boo the American national anthem in Boston? Because that seems ill-advised to me.
I imagine there will be a healthy contingent of Canadian fans.
I would think so. It's not that far a trip.
Yeah. Oh, man. The pregame dynamics.
I would be curious to know which of the Canadians are brave enough to boo in Boston, because Boston is not going to take kindly to that. I don't root for Boston in any other circumstance other than tonight, because I want Boston fans to be full Boston fans, even though I acknowledge that it is an American hockey fan base, but a lot of Boston going to be in the house. And, other than the racial components of Boston fans, because that's not what you want. But I think that it is going to be an electric game, an electric atmosphere. The Canadians cannot lose twice to the Americans in hockey. It cannot happen. What are you doing back there?
Is that Toby? Is that Toby I just heard?
Yeah, I was going to, but he stopped talking before.
Be sneaky with Toby. Just is that Toby Keith just whispering
from
in my
the grave? Did he rise from the grave and then you sent him back to the beyond?
Just quietly.
What did you just do?
List. Oh, bleep it.
Now, if we were good at this, that's how the show would end today instead of the big payback.
I just love how invested the entire country has gotten into this at the drop of a hat. There was not, among hockey fans, sure, but there was not any nationwide anticipation of this being this intense tournament that brings back everything you love about international sports, especially in hockey. I'm not going to lie. I thought nothing of the Four Nations face-off I saw it was on the horizon.
I didn't know it was happening, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's not rare for me to be checked out of hockey because there's a million different football things going on that I'm paying attention to during the hockey season. But I have been as checked out of the NHL this year because the Preds are so god-awful as I have at any other point. And then I saw Team USA playing Team Canada. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, back in.
But I just happened to be scrolling. I had no idea, Lucas, truly, that this was going on. And then I turned it on and I was all in.
All in. It's it feels like the Stanley Cup final is tonight. I mean, it's just awesome. It feels like Game 7 is tonight. It's great. Can't wait.
So we look forward to that. We hope the USA wins. What are the only poll that I'll have you read today is we had some anti-Canadian. No, damn it. Some anti-Canadian sentiment that you were producing from the Twitter polls today.
Yes, we put out a poll question presented by Two Rivers Ford. Trash talk Team Canada hockey in the replies. Two-Tone Blue Nation says Tim Hortons is overrated. Poutine is tasteless. Last time Canada won a Stanley Cup was 1993. Final score tonight, 5-1 for Canada being the 51st state, is what he says.
Poutine is not overrated. These have to be grounded in reality.
Poutine is overrated. It's fine. Like gravy on fries, okay.
It's just a little excessive.
What is wrong with you? Your food opinions are so bizarre.
It's gravy on fries. That's just what it is.
Somebody who does not distinguish what they consume on a regular basis as good or bad or indifferent, you just eat. That's
you're a big connoisseur of Canadian cuisine, yes?
I like poutine, yeah.
Is Buck a secret Canadian?
Yeah, pretty Canadian behavior lately. I don't know.
Canadian behavior?
Pretty suspicious.
Suspicious, eh?
That would be... That would indicate that I have been kind and diplomatic and polite to you, which is not in my repertoire.
Don't make me call the Mounties, eh?
I have to check on what you call bacon in your fridge next time I'm at your house.
I do eat turkey bacon. I don't eat regular bacon anymore. It's just turkey bacon. That's about it. All right. Toby Keith, let's go. Good luck to Team USA. Boo Canada. Not most weeks, but just this week. And we hope you enjoy. I'll see you on Primetime tonight, 7 p.m.